All right, hi. We are team 8866, and today we are going to be talking about team sustainability.
I'm Kabir.
And I'm Ilma.
Yeah, fun.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about team sustainability and how we got that through programs like InnovateHer, Irish, our leadership structure, our training, and our iteration and design that we worked on last season.
Just an overview of how we have team sustainability in our team. So obviously we have our one FRC team, Team 8866, but recently we've branched off, and this was from last year, and we've had success with them. Our two FTC teams, we have two FTC teams that we started last year, as well as future FL teams in elementary schools, and we'll get a bit into that a little later through our outreach program, as well as we started a program for girls in STEM called InnovateHer, and we have our really established outreach program that we use to bring STEM to those in lower grades.
All right, so let's talk about InnovateHer. So, Innovate Her is a unique program that we have at IA that's made for girls by girls. It helps create a community between our female mentors, coaches, and our members. And usually we meet for workshops at least once a month. And during these sessions, we'll sit down and talk about some of the issues we face currently on our team and stuff that has gone down in the past that we want to work together to try and create a solution for. So it really is helpful because it helps us, number one, builds confidence, and number two, it helps us really communicate on these issues, like a specific issue that we can all unite on and work together to solve. And additionally, the network that we create at Innovate Her lasts a really long time. And even now, we are still in contact with many of the members who have been here previously and have either graduated or haven't been able to rejoin Innovate Her. So the great thing about Innovate Her is that it's not limited to robotics members at all. Anyone can join, whether they're in the engineering pathway at our school or if they're in healthcare or IT. Additionally, last year we spoke about adding other girls from other teams to join Innovate Her, and I believe this year that will be a goal for us. And we mainly focused on engineering activities, but it's also good for practical activities that girls will need later on in the future. So some of the things we did last year was a skateboard build. This was really great for teaching girls about some of the bigger machinery that we use in the wood shop and outside of it as well. It's also helpful for learning about like small parts like wheels, axles, bearings, stuff like that. And additionally, we did a wood shop and electrical training. So during the wood shop, we learned how to do little wood jewelry. And this was great because they got to use some of the more like smaller, delicate stuff in our wood shop. And electrical training, we taught them how to solder. We also did a wood burning session. So I know a lot of girls kept what they'd learned during our wood burning and soldering sessions and took them home and hung them up in their room as like a memory of what we did at Innovate Her. Additionally, another session we did was for car maintenance. This one was really important to us because we wanted to teach every girl at Innovate Her something that would last beyond their time at school. So if they're ever in a jam, once they're older, we hope that they do remember what they learned here at Innovate Her, and hopefully it can help them get out of a tough situation. Our final build that we did was an e-bike build. This one was just a lot of fun for the girls. We got to let them be hands-on with a lot of like metal parts and electrical stuff. And we also got to take them out to like ride bikes, and it was a great session overall. So for Irish, that's a competition we hold at our school, and it's really great, number one, because it promotes learning and leadership. And because our team is so large, we have over 100 members, it allows for the growth of new members and also leaders. So this is great. I was a leader last year, and I feel like my time at Irish really helps me learn how to develop my people skills and like just working with others on the team.
And in case you don't know what Irish is, so let me go back in real quick to explain it. So Irish is essentially a competition we held in our school last year. It was within our team, but this year we've branched out to having other teams join our competition as well, and we're currently in the process of that. Irish is essentially we have last year was three teams of, and they were all led by people who we wanted to scout for potential leadership. So we added them in teams of three. So each team had like t three leaders, and then we had essentially like younger members join and like be part of those teams. It was essentially like simulating a real build season. And what we had is we had like a real challenge designed by our own students, and we created real field elements. We had real game pieces. We had real game rules, and essentially what we did was at for 3 months from September to November
To December.
to December. We had our build season. They all tested, they all iterated, and they created their own robots for their competition. They were basic robots. They were on basic drivetrains, basic shooters, but they still built them from the ground up. They CAD'd everything. And then in December we had a competition. It was a lot of fun. It was a great success. We had a huge turnout, and it was just a really great opportunity just to like have their newer, like, younger members to learn about how a build season will be simulated. And here are winners from last year. Um, here's the robot. So as you can see, it's we built them out of the drivetrain. The base is metal, but a lot of it's just wood because we didn't have like the capacity to like keep cutting our metal for three different teams. But as you can see, they built a pretty solid robot, and the effect of Irish was a great effect on our build season, which allowed us to make it to Worlds for the first time because everyone was in tune with how to uh, proceed through a first season. So just going through like how we like deal with training. So we have something called Robot School that we implemented for the last couple of years. And Robot School is essentially how we get our younger members accustomed to what we do in robotics, as well as allowing them to choose what they want to specialize with once we start our build season. I'll just get into it a little bit real quick. So a couple important ones that we have are general ed, just like general robotics education.
Yes, and this is for our like newest members. They've never heard of robotics, never heard of FRC or anything like that. This is basically just to explain number one, how our build season goes, and also just like general rules for the game manuals, where to find everything. We also go over like FRC design and Chief Delphi, really good websites and resources that they can use to really get into robotics.
Right. And another really important one is scouting. Our scouting process at 8866 has been a big part of our team for a lot of years now. Essentially, we make every single one of our members scout. Unless you are a pit or you're a driver, you are learning how to scout. You are scouting in the stands, and this just allows us to collect as much information as possible without spreading our scouting people too thin. So we have our members learn about our scouting app and how to use it and how to like watch the match and how to read that, understand what data we have to get from the match. And this is just really, really good for like allowing us to make sure we have all the data we need when we're coming to line selections, and it's just a really effective way of scouting.
Additionally, our scouting method is really good because we have so many people that when we go to field trips, it's hard to keep everyone on like a certain task because there's just not enough tasks like out there, right? So scouting is a really great way for us to number one, put our members to work, and number two, it gives us access to a huge amount of information collected by our members.
Yeah. Another like other parts of our robot school include learning about CAD. So this is a little less mandatory, but a lot of members still like do this just to like understand like how we proceed through the build system because CAD's a major part. We CAD everything in this team. So by learning how to CAD, you're essentially computing one of the biggest parts. So a lot of the members take the time to learn how to CAD. Intake is a very popular extremely popular department to learn about. So a lot of members flock to that. Um, they start with like learning about shooters and like intake mechanisms, how our wheels work. Transmissions is one of our smaller departments, but we still have a lot of people learning about how to, you know, take disassemble sword modules, how all those work, gear ratios. HR, it's not like that important in terms of like members learning it, but just members knowing how to do our HR processes is really effective because we only have one HR manager. So by them understanding how HR processes work, we can have everything run smoother. Programming, we have a lot of CS kids because our school is a pathway school, so we have IT engineering and healthcare. And we have a lot of CS kids who don't know if they can join robotics or not. Then you see we have programming. So that allows them to join. So that's how we have our programming department, which is a lot of CS kids who have no background in engineering whatsoever, have no interest in engineering whatsoever. They just want to code. So that's how we have gotten them into our program as well. And healthcare students are not excluded either. because we have like healthcare. I'm a healthcare student myself personally, so I um I saw that I had an interest in robotics, and I joined electrical, which is the next one on the list. And this is kind of basic training we give our members. Um, we like we have a huge circuit board displayed in our main room, and essentially what we do is we just show them how each circuit works, like what a PDH is, what the motors are, what our motor controllers are, and like every other system that you need to like power the robot, as well how to solder and connect wires. It's just basic training, but it allows them to be effective.
Additionally, going back to how we get other pathways back into our school and like include them, I know he said he was in healthcare and he joined electrical. But another great way that we get everybody involved is that we have just so many different positions available and so many different tasks. There's just a lot of stuff to do on our team. Going back to HR, it's mandatory because that's where we teach them, number one, how to act at competitions. Number two, like teaching them gracious professionalism. A lot of our important ideals we really enforce in these robot school sessions. And that's why it's just so important to us to train all of our new members.
Right. Going off of that, we're just gonna go through the last four we have. So I want to take a time to like, talk about pit cleanup. So a team that's organized is gonna be a way more efficient team. So by having our members understand that where should parts go, how to like clean up like effectively, so like before like time class practice is over, just to have our workspace tidy and having an area where we can find things at all times is just a really effective way of keeping your team organized. And by implementing having a parts lead, we have a parts lead, implementing that as well as having two people just designated for pit and like this like delegating parts. You can just ask them where parts are and they'll give it to you. It's just a really effective way of ensuring that your team is just like organized, runs smoothly, and it's just a very efficient way of working. Our last three that I want to mention is just bumpers. Bumpers is not a big department by any stretch of the, but like having, it's not essentially training them how to do bumpers. It's just having people to work on the bumpers because bumpers they're pretty. You could talk about that.
Yeah, bumpers, they're not like a super big part of the robot, but we like to put emphasis on every part that we can because we have so many members to delegate tasks to. So bumpers has actually been really helpful for that. In fact, it's helped like a lot of girls on our team like get to really high positions because they started on bumpers and gradually worked their way up. Bumpers really allows them to work with other like build leads and like just generally like it helps us have a really clean and final, like finished looking robot. Additionally, what he said about pit cleanup, we have such a large team that um when we're in the pit, it's hard to keep track of everything. So having someone to like take care of all of our parts and like our pit is like really important to us. We have a system here at our school where if somebody doesn't know where a part is, they can leave it in the part box and it'll be sorted later by our like pit people or our parts people. And I mean, we had to include this because we have like obviously many untrained members who may not know where everything goes. So as a part of this like learning process for them, we try to help that like guide them through it, but also take care of like what may need to be taken care of. Like we have to clean up after them a little bit until they know like where everything goes and how to do it.
Right. This also ties into like Irish. This entire robot school thing just ties into Irish because we run our robot school in August and early September, and then we have our Irish kickoff then. And this all these skills and like different like the specializations we have on our team, we expose this to our members very extremely early. And once Irish starts, we divide our members into different teams, all our younger members essentially into different teams, and they can just basically choose what they want to work on their Irish bot. So let's say someone wants to CAD the robot, they can work on CAD because we taught them how to CAD. Let's say someone wants to finish the bumpers, although they're not that complicated, they can still work on that, be contributing part of the team. Electrical is a major part, so by just learning electrical, they can like have a solid foundation on how to wire the robot. And then obviously we also have programmers, but although we're not programming that complicated, we're just programming mechanism chassis and like pretty simple shooters. Just like having that knowledge in the beginning is just really effective. Marketing, we have a one-man marketing team. However, we have people just working and like taking photos of competition. We have a lot of people doing that. And that's just really effective on our like expanding our reach, as well as like having a bunch of people working on sponsorships and getting that for our team. So just like having people understanding like what we do as a what we do on the marketing side, it's just a really effective way of like getting people who are interested in that. Even if they don't want to do it as a main focus, like want to do it on the side, they can still help and like contribute to that as well. So another major part of our team is our outreach program. So outreach is it's a separate entire entity at our school. It's Innovation Academy outreach, but we still have like we're like really deeply connected with them, and this is just because STEM and robotics is just very intertwined. So the outreach program, let's give a little synopsis on it. So outreach is just the way that we like bring STEM to like younger members of our community. So essentially it's through elementary and middle schoolers. What we do is, let's say we have like a day where we go to a middle school, we'll like be there in the morning, we'll leave when it's time for their school to end, and we just have an entire day planned for activities, mostly for each grade. And depending on the grade, we'll have like levels of difficulty. And essentially it's just like us like showing how STEM works. We'll give a presentation in the beginning. We'll show like what activity we're gonna do, how it relates to STEM. We're gonna do the activity, then we're gonna have a reflection for the kids and ask them how this relates to the concept we're learning about. And it's always tied back to one singular concept and just allows them to understand like how we can use STEM to accomplish different things in our world. Even if it's robotics, if it's chemistry, just learning that is extremely effective.
And additionally, outreach was really great for getting our members involved. And then also we had to, or sometimes we would really try to incentivize outreach so we could maximize our impact on like our elementary schools and our area around us. So how we would do this is for our school, because we are a STEM magnet school, we have to earn our magnet seal by getting pathway credits. So for outreach, when they would attend these sessions, they would gain pathway credits. So it was number one, not only good for these elementary schoolers who were learning things, it was also beneficial for our own students to attend these outreach sessions for volunteer hours and pathway credits.
Right. I was gonna go into a little in-depth Human Robot Summer Camp. Robot Summer Camp, we haven't implemented yet, but we have plans to start implementing it next summer. It's just a way like it's like robot school, but essentially just like getting new members just to custom to robotics. So when it's time for the off season to start, we can it allows them to like have that knowledge to get started with that. Grits, I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with grits. Grits is just a competition that Georgia holds on the off season. It's the previous game, and it's just like a way for like getting younger members or new members of the team. It's open to everyone, and it just allows them to understand how competition feels. There's no stakes involved. It's just like what we do personally at Grits is we run rookie drivers. We run all rookie drivers, and that just allows these rookie drivers to just like be accustomed to like what is going on at a competition, how to like understand the competition atmosphere without any of the pressure. So it allows them to develop and make mistakes without having to pay for those mistakes. And it's open on our team. We take all our students who want to go to Grits to Grits. We This is just like allowing them to understand like and getting exposure to how competitions work. And the first competition we ever won was the Grids actually. The photo we have right there is our team waving our flag for the first competition we won. And even though it was a competition that wasn't really like counted, it was an off-season competition. It still meant a lot to our team that like we won a competition and we won it through rookie drivers.
All right. Also, grits is a really good identifier for us for future leadership because we are so hands off during grits. It really allows us to see who's willing to step up and step forward to take up positions that we are leaving open for them. Additionally, lets us like teach them again, like Woody Flowers, gracious professionalism. It really helps us enforce that because if we ever see something going on in the stands that we don't condone, it like lets us like gets them really fast, especially before the official season starts, and we're gonna go through competitions like just so fast that we may not have time to train them on like proper etiquette.
So our team being relatively new, we're still finding our feet in terms of our leadership structure. We've run a couple leadership structures in the fact past, but here's our newest and most effective one that we found is like what we were going to do proceeding forward. She's one of our, so we have three captains essentially. She's one of our captains, and these three captains are basically overseeing the entire operation. They don't work on any specific part of the actual team. They're just overseeing the entire operation. They're who we report to. If you want to get into a little bit about what your role is as a captain.
Of course. So we really mainly have two co-captains, and I'm the lead project manager. I work directly with them. We created my position just this year, so we could have someone again to oversee, just like he said, but then also to deal with all the nitty-gritty stuff and do overall management to make sure we stay organized, we meet our deadlines, and also that we're just generally communicating through all levels of our leadership.
Yeah, and as well as that, we have sub leaders who are basically running or everything. So we have one for build. And under build, we have like all our different like builds like chassis, transmission. We have all those different leaders, as well as we have a lead for programming, we have a lead for strategy, and our strategy is who's teaching and driving is who is teaching basically our new next rookie drivers. Like we're like running trials, we're seeing who will be the most effective driver. We're gonna run them at grids as well. So we're just like having that structure and then reporting back to her essentially about like how everything's going for the project on the project side of things, just making sure everything's organized, efficient, and then as well as having our two captains who are there to just oversee everything, give instructions, give orders, and basically be the leaders that we need to keep our structure.
Yeah, the captains really make the big decisions. I'm here to enforce them and additionally like provide insight on that, given like feedback from our members. Additionally, in our sub teams, we have build, testing, and testing. We made that its own category this year because they were just so important to us last year. Um, Testing was huge for us. It let us like train our new members and then also it was so important. I think during our competitions last year we had like a 100 something page binders just full of testing documents, and that was number one helpful for us because we could just look at our past and see what went wrong and what like went right in previous designs. And then it was just helpful because it really like let us like showcase exactly like our capabilities as a team when it came to testing and like being just so thorough and organized.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, going and getting into iteration and testing. This is just a really major part of our team last year. This is what essentially allowed us to be that team where we could like have multiple designs, but keep organized with them, see what worked, see what didn't work. And this is what essentially helped us get to Worlds for the first time. Just like going through a little the process real quick. So this is what our testing lead, this is what he like did every single time. Um, this is mainly what he did every single time when he went through, let's say he like received like a shooter, for example. This is what he would do to test through that. So first, obviously, there would be the prototype. So one of the build members, they'll prototype the shooter. They'll build it up using wood, just to like have the product there. And then they would meet with our testing lead. So basically whoever built it would meet with the testing lead. They give the what the shooter is about, how to use it, and then the testing lead based off that he'd research the testing guidelines, see what would go, what wouldn't go at a competition, and then based off that he would start basically and we'd have volunteers for this too. So it'd be him and a couple other people who we called for testing, and basically he'd have 10 trials um of this testing essentially, but it'd be on video. So he'd have someone recording and then they just go through over and over and over and over again. And once they finished all that, we'd go through the footage, he'd go through the footage and he'd essentially have he'd write a document down for every single trial. So I remember at one point we had like 100 trials for a single thing. And he went through and did he documented every single one of those trials, as well as he worked on observations and ideas that he thought would potentially be an improvement for the prototype. And then just to like show our how we iterated and she can get a little into like how that like affected our team in competition. We uploaded that to YouTube and like that shows like how we went through that process.
Yeah, iteration was a huge thing for us last year. Um, I remember last year, the leaderships when they were training our Irish leaders, which was me at the time, we went into the season knowing exactly what we wanted to do and exactly how much we wanted to focus on our testing. So what we had was like a rapid fire testing cycle. So what they had basically told us was that first it'll start off with CAD. We will come up with like a design like super quickly on like one subsystem of the robot, and we will come up with like a design. We would send it over to testing. They would make a wooden prototype of what we had suggested, and they would test it 10, 20, however many times they needed to get the data that they needed. Then this would be put into a specifically, like very specifically formatted testing document, which we would then send over back to CAD. And if they needed to reiterate what they had done, then they would do that. Then they would send it back to testing and they would go back and forth until we finally had a product that everybody was happy with. And then we would send it over to build to finally build everything. So initially we had decided that this process would take maybe 2 to 3 days during the build season. What happened was that we were going so fast with testing that each cycle took around one practice. So that was like a huge jump for us. And because we have so many members and so many training leaders, it was really like it was incredible because we could have multiple of these cycles going on at one time and everybody was just going and testing and testing and testing. So we have that's how we got like such a large database of documents and data for our final CAD and everything that our CAD and training did eventually could like had potential to make it all the way up to the final CAD where we would work on it and just CAD everything onto the final robot and send it to our like official leadership and like builders. So it was just such a great opportunity for number one, it was just so thorough, and number two, it was great for training leaders.
Yeah, and just getting into like why it was like really effective. So we built 8 different robots a year round last year. That's a really substantial amount of robots, considering that we only have one off-season competition. Actually, two if you're counting Screw, but Screw is just mainly for
Upperclassmen.
upperclassmen. But our big competition is the grids, where we have run all the repeat drivers, and then we have obviously our one robot for our competition in the spring for the on season. But we have 8 different robots year round last year, and we'll just get into that real quick. So obviously we had our 3 Irish bots. So the teams that they built the 3 robots, even though they're all built out of wood, they were still robots that had like our they use our electrical systems, they use our drive systems. So those I used a lot of those parts. Paper Cut was a special project made by one of our members. Essentially, a robot made entirely of cardboard. The entire like chassis of it was made of cardboard. The shooter was made of cardboard too. So it's essentially like a replica of one of our on-season robots, but it was made out entirely of cardboard. It had electrical components and it had drive components as well, but it was just a cardboard robot that like we ran at competition just to like just to show like his projects. And then we obviously had Chuck. Going to get to Chuck real quick.
Yeah, so Chuck was our bot from last year. It was really great because I mean, again, it was we had 8 different robots last year. That's really ambitious. That was our first time doing something so like I mean, that's so insane, right? So what we learned from that was basically that the larger your team, sometimes the more robots you'll need to have because each of our Irish robots, even though they were clunky, made out of wood, they didn't work great, but they were still such a great learning opportunity for everyone on our team. So yeah.
Yeah, and then getting into the on season, so Reefscape, we had 3 different robots essentially. So we had our naming scheme was we had F prime, F double prime, and F triple prime. So F prime was just our first iteration. We went through our testing process for it. We really like fleshed out, made it thorough, and um, when we ran F prime was it was really effective. We won a competition, and that allowed us to go through F double prime. F double prime, we iterated, we went through it entirely again. F double prime was extremely efficient too. It ran really well at competition. But F triple prime was where we had a little bit of issues. And if you want to get into that real quick.
Yeah, so like you said, F prime and F double prime were really great for like the early season when everybody was just kind of getting settled with their early bots. F triple prime was when we kind of got a little bit ambitious maybe, and we definitely learned from that last year. F triple prime was when we included the climb on our robot, and because like again, this was a big learning process, a big learning thing for us because we decided to completely do a new iteration instead of just keeping our old one and adding a climb onto that. That kind of led to us maybe like plateauing in our progress at competition.
Yeah, we essentially just try to put the entire climb system right before like competition. We try to like basically rebuild the entire robot to include the climb system, and that was just like a really like the process was not very effective. Like we like had to scramble. It was not like needed at all. Um, and without climb, we probably could have run well, but we wanted to have the climb. Just be a little. We were a little ambitious, and that caused for a lot of stress within the team, a lot of late nights. And but the important thing is that every iteration allowed for training, especially our new members. our new members got a lot of, especially last year, they got a lot of exposure. They were very hands-on with the robot, because especially what they learned from Irish. Irish tried back to a lot of this in robot school as well, because they've already worked on a robot before, and they just understand like how to like when they get delegated tasks, they understand like cut this like piece of wood out, or like put this electrical system together, or like program the robot in this certain way. So by having these tasks delegated to them, they were from the training from Irish and robot school, they were essentially able to be effective members of our team, and that's how we were able to be an effective team and basically just get to Worlds for the first time in our history.
All right, so that wraps up our presentation. Now we will be taking questions.
Yeah, we have our coach here as well, so if, he can answer any questions as well if you have any questions for him and how like his role on the team is as well. Is there anything you want to add to the presentation that we may have not added? Oh, we have a question. Yeah, sure. Go
Hey
ahead.
guys, this is Dwayne Noaker. I'm the coach for Team 8080. Just had a question about like your team makeup. Do you guys post any of that information about the structure of your team and kind of some of the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of each of those roles?
I'm not sure that we've necessarily published it. We again kind of did a pretty big reorganization at the start of season before last, where we were running this giant team with 30 departments, sort of independent departments, and it was chaotic to say the least, and kind of led to some kind of early troubles for us at competitions. So with the restructure, we borrowed, and I'll be glad to share this offline or online, either one. But we trying to think of the exact program that we borrowed it from, but it was just a focus on getting our kind of overall leadership numbers down. So we went from 30 captains last year to maybe, or 3 years ago, to maybe 12 captains the year before. Um, and yeah, I'll be glad to share those specifics. Unfortunately, I don't have them in front of me right now, but essentially we kind of consolidated. We have an overall build lead that design reports to, iteration testing reports to, CAD reports to. So we just it's sort of top down, I guess, where previously, we had the 30 students kind of all on the same level. We had to sort of stair step it this year to make sure, or year before last, to make sure kind of all of our decisions were meeting in the middle. And we had cohesive design, because otherwise we weren't having cohesive design.
Yeah, and also the fact that we made this switch was really great for us because when they were in departments, it kind of limited their knowledge, and we want to now just maximize what they're learning and their experience that they're gaining during these. So when we were divided into our little sub teams that had like their own captain, each sub team would really only work on that subsystem. So the issue with that is that they can't really see the bigger picture and they don't know what other teams are doing. So our communication was down.
I'm also going to put my email in the chat, and if you want to reconnect and I can get you specifics on that leadership structure, I'll be glad to email that to you.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate it. I'm just curious
course.
about like kind of span and control too. So I'm
Sure.
driving right now, so I can't really read it, but I don't know if you guys are in like
Okay.
the Discord.
If you want to just call out your email, I'll type it in the chat, and then that way I'll have a copy of it.
Okay. It's just my first name at my last name.com. So should be pretty straightforward.
Wayne@noker.com.
That's it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Dwayne.
Thank
And
you.
if anything else comes up, feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Sure, you want to go over that? Maybe like
Yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. I don't know how many we have still on the call, but I'll be glad to kind of sit in. Like to thank Ilma and Kabir for doing a good job. Even though this is virtual, it's still kind of nerve-wracking for our students to present like this. So thanks for them and their efforts for putting this together. I'm going to excuse them unless anybody has specific questions, and I'll take specific kind of mentor perspectives on some of this for a few minutes as well. Okay. Thank you, guys. John. So I was going to just really quickly pull up the go back in the slides a little bit and um, try to make sure. I think they covered everything. They were just going really fast, so I'm trying to. I want to elaborate on things as people need us to elaborate. Again, we're very open to helping other teams. We want to see others succeed. That's a big push for our team and in terms of our culture. So any kind of opportunity we have to help others kind of get over a hump or something, we'd be glad to kind of speak towards that. Again, it's kind of the situation that we're in. Just for context, we're at a STEM magnet school. This is our 5th year being open. We don't have like a true athletic department or fine arts department. We just added art, and we've got like fencing, and I think we have a club cricket team, but we don't have traditional athletics. So what that leads to is an FRC team with 110 members. And that's insane for me to even say that we have that many. It's kind of led us to rethink how we do kind of 9th and 10th grade. We're kind of probably moving towards an FTC heavy kind of blueprint. We have 2 FTC teams now with about almost 30 students, almost maxed out. So that would put our total numbers up to 140 or so this year. So in terms of managing a team that size, as they mentioned, we just have to stay as busy as we can. We do 3 off-season events. I know he said 2. We also did the summer event in Sumter last year, Scrap. We went to Scrap as well. So we traveled a lot, way too much for our mentors. Our mentors were kind of burned out, as all of us are by the end of it. But so we attend a lot of off-season events as a means to get students opportunity to travel, get students time on robots. We build robots, lots of robots. They kept saying 8, but so we rebuilt our Crescendo robot, electrically at least. We stripped it fully from May to August, I think. I think our first Crescendo off-season event was the one in South Carolina at Scrap. So we did that completely over because we had really big electrical problems during Crescendo season. So so the idea was, let's start fresh. It's a great robot. We just have some connectivity problems. So let's fix those. So that was a big part of the early season last year. The other big thing is just kind of balancing your years, right? We have a slight dip in our numbers this year. We just didn't do as quite a job. Our numbers this year in terms of seniors. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. So we've had to kind of really focus on getting balance across the 4 grades. And that's why we do the extra builds. That's why we do put so much emphasis on Irish. Irish, we're still kind of figuring out kind of what our limits are. the students were really gung-ho and they posted it on Chief Delphi, and then we started getting all these requests. And we're not big enough to, have it be a 15 team event, right? We're just trying to figure out, can we make this work with 8 or 10 teams? And we've kind of focused on North Fulton just because that's where we're based out of. And we have close relationships with those teams. So we're trying to help those teams any way that we can. But again, stay tuned on the Irish stuff. I mean, we might have the ability, if a team's really interested in it, they could potentially come in and participate with us. It's meant to be a sort of a 10th and 11th grade led build. We don't have any of our upperclassmen running teams. They're in positions of consulting, if across all 4 teams. But they're not specifically designing or leading any team. And obviously we got to keep it no kind of crazy swerve modules. We try to put some level of constraint on the build so it's not crazy expensive for teams. If there's other questions, honestly, I'm here. I've got time. If y'all want to kind of talk through stuff specifically, I'd be glad to do that now. Or you can contact me offline, and we can run it that way. I see a hand up, Dwayne, again, maybe, and maybe that's an old hand. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just us 2 left or what, but but I'd be happy to learn more about like how you guys budget as well. I know you have
Sure.
a large team. I imagine some of your revenue
Sure.
comes through membership dues or something to that effect. But I think that would be, I'd like to hear more about that if we can.
Sure, absolutely. So we are unfortunately mostly fee based. We're trying to, or member fee based. We're trying to get more sponsorships. We applied to probably 12 or 15 different grants last year, and were turned down by all of them except one. I think we took in, I think we took in maybe $3,000 from this one sponsor who's unfortunately not going to participate moving forward. And that was supposed to scale up as we made it further into the season, but that did not, in fact, happen. We did not scale up. So, um, unfortunately for us, we were kind of, I can't say unfortunately. Fortunately for us, we had some generous parents who were able to kind of step up through their businesses in times of need. So the way we kind of structure, since we run such a heavy load in the off season, I split dues fall and spring. Okay, so I think our price points this year are $250 in the fall and $300 in the spring. I think that's right. I think that's the number we landed on. It's within $50 of that range. And that typically does not include our travel costs. We'll add in the travel cost because we have such a large team, not everybody can travel with us. So we don't want the students that don't travel to have to pay for travel. So we'll do an additional $30 a day for grits. And the overnight trips typically run, with us having to take charter buses because of how big we are. The overnight trips run about 175 to 200, depending on how many days we stay. And that's an additional cost that the student incurs. We do have, like I said, some wealthy parents who've helped us with scholarships for students that can't afford those costs. But obviously there's a limit to that, right? I can't have, 20 kids asking for scholarship. We're not that robust. So I would say, that's kind of an ongoing struggle for us is how to, not go up any higher on the dues, on the student fees, because, again, we're building a lot, and in order, as you all know, in order to build a lot, you gotta have money in the bank to pay for these crazy robot vendor prices. So I would say, again, we do collect a lot in fees. Um, Worlds was a whole nother question. I mean, ideally, in a perfect situation, we'd have money tucked away to kind of cover us for Worlds, but um, we just were so clueless last spring, just with the whole kind of way that the fund, the timing of it, and you know how quick a turnaround it is. We ended up having to collect money at the start of spring break. Didn't have access to it because the school was closed. Um, I had a parent somehow put 50 airline tickets on his personal credit card. And we would have been completely belly up if I didn't have that kind of parent support. So it's hard to really, I mean, I guess I would just say, as far as building culture, you've got to identify your parents that are the most motivated. And again, not the expectation is not the parents' personal finances to take care of things, but you really got to find parents with jobs that can potentially donate towards STEM, to help with some of that. I had another parent who donated essentially the full cost of registration for Worlds. Um, so I don't have any magic bullet for the funding. I haven't solved that mystery because of kind of our location being in North Fulton, with, if I'm just being honest, pretty wealthy families. Um, the grants and stuff, we generally don't receive because of, there's not a very compelling story in terms of need, right? We're pretty well um, funded otherwise, not our team specifically, but the area is pretty well uh, moneyed. So yeah, I unfortunately don't have a good answer other than, we're able to ask for the funding, and because of, and those numbers don't work if we have a team of 30 kids, right? Those numbers and the dues that I have only work for us because we have the crazy numbers that we do, because we have 100 kids. So
So
I
Daniel,
I
do
typically
you guys put like a focus of like a certain percentage on like robot material and tools and like stuff like that? Like, is it based on percentages or?
That's a great question. So my wife has joined me as a coach over the last 2.5 years, I guess, and she's the money person in my family. Um, so she's helping me kind of stick to a tighter budget. Um, I I don't have a whole lot of personal organization on that front, unfortunately. So I mean, we track it obviously. We we try not to overspend in the off season. I try to watch my numbers to make sure we have travel costs. Um, but with the fees that we get in, and because we do the travel stuff separate, I'm able to put most of those season fees towards towards products, towards the vendors. And I will yeah, unfortunately I don't have a full number other than to say I try to do two things. I try to have enough money for the charter buses and the hotels, kind of tucked away as we get into January, so that we still want to always run with a 10 or 15K surplus, so that we kind of have some flexibility if something comes up, if we have a major purchase. But the other side of it in terms of supplies, when this school started, the 11th and 12th grade engineering program was almost fully FRC. So because of that, we have a ton of raw materials, I would say, that's kind of kept us afloat as well. You know, obviously we don't have all the swerves and stuff as part of the school. We have to buy that separate. But you know, for the most part, it is sort of just checking the students. I mean, our students put together their parts list, right? So I don't do that for them. Um, and it's a balance, right? I mean, I obviously oversee it and I have to press go on the purchases. But if it's something, if they have it fully catted, if they have the justification for it, I'm because it's their fees, I'm generally gonna go ahead with the purchase if it's not duplication or something like that. I will say that I attribute a lot of our success over the last year and a half or so to this kind of team structure that we've put in, and um, you know, I'm not ashamed to say that the students, for the most part, run the show. Um, that works, as you well know, that works, you know, 8 out of 10 times, right? You know, we still have our problems. We had some challenges with driver and um, coding last year that were sort of discipline issues that we should have had oversight from the mentors on. So I'm still trying to find that balance of, you know, how much we should run versus how much I should let the students run. I'm a strong proponent of putting the students in charge, though, and I think that's served us well. I know that that's a controversial topic and that it doesn't work at all schools, but with my situation, being at a STEM school, these for the most part, these kids are gung ho enough to do it. And so again, all that to say that I got the kids helping with the budget too. And the only other thing I'll say about the budgeting and the school stuff is we with all the crazy purchasing at the end of last year with Worlds, we are pretty much decided to get the money out of the school system because of all the restrictions. So we are um, close on a 501c3 kind of booster club setup. I don't know how y'all operate your funds, but I've been doing it all with the school's bookkeeper, and it's a nightmare for me. It's a nightmare for her. So we're going to try to kind of back out slowly from the school system to kind of help us with that budget. And that's going to also open up for some, you know, donations, some tax write-offs and stuff with some donations. So we're hoping that'll help with our funding as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all that detail.
Yeah, of course. And again, if anything follow up, I'll do my best to track down that paperwork for you on the team structure. I think that's a really big part is having good leaders with the kids. And you know, I just say our culture is servant leadership. And you gotta do your best to identify the hot shots who want the glory for themselves. So we spend a lot of time and kind of sorting through who's gonna put the team above their personal ambitions. And we've got crazy capable members that don't have leadership roles because of how individually focused they are sometimes. So all right. Well, for anybody else, if y'all have any further questions, again, my email is in the chat. I can connect you with the students as well if something they said sparked an interest. Never hesitate to ask us at a competition if we can help. We'd be glad to. We usually have spare parts. We usually have spare hands, spare expertise if you need it. Okay. Thanks. Y'all have a wonderful day.